The 7 Years of Being Haunted. This story takes place in my mom's house, starting from about 7 years ago to the present. Yesterday, in fact, as of writing this story, is the last encounter I know about. I'll start by giving a brief background on the history of the house, which we have documents of. I'm not going to give the name of the town. I'll call RS. The house was built in 1906, in a small mining town by a man we know by Mr. Chambers. It is a 2-level house with the main floor housing the living room, kitchen, a bathroom, study, and 3 bedrooms. Half of the basement had 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and the other half was unfinished, just concrete and framing. Mr. Chambers was a doctor at the town's original hospital, which is situated adjacent from the house, maybe 500 yards or so away. Chambers lived in his house with his wife and daughter. We do have a few original pictures of the property and family before surrounding area was developed. There have only been a few families to own the property, my parents only being the 3rd or 4th owners. We moved in around mid-2018. I was 15 years old at the time. Together there were 6 of us in the house. My 2 sisters, who I'll call C and G, my brother S, my mom, and stepdad. All of us kids were around the same age, so I'm able to say we were all old enough to understand what was and wasn't explainable. To begin with the story, I was the first to experience any activity. In my room, I had situated my bed in the corner along the longest wall in the room. It was this wall that started it all. The first few weeks were good in the house, until around the 1-month mark. When I was laying in bed at night, scrolling or watching YouTube or whatnot, there started a tapping. It was so faint that I almost couldn't hear it. The tapping would progress from the farthest side of the wall all the way up to the corner by my head. I didn't pay it much mind, chalked it up to be the house settling, old house sounds, playing it off as things my parents would say. It continued like this for a few weeks. When I no longer let it keep bothering me, it got worse. The taps turned to loud bangs, usually 5 bangs starting again from the farthest side of the wall to my head. Once it reached by my head, it would tap lightly for a few seconds before stopping completely. Around this time, I realized that the wall I was against was concrete with drywall. There weren't any pipes, no wood, nothing to be causing those sounds. So finally, I moved my bed away from the wall, put it in the center of the room under my window. This helped for a while, and the banging subsided. After a couple weeks like this with no banging, I grew uncomfortable with where my bed was, so I moved it back along the wall. The banging never returned. Instead, something much worse took its place. The first night back against the wall, I heard something under my bed that I can only describe as an upset cat meow, like that sound they make when they're about to break out into a fight. I ignored it the first time, telling myself it was my sister C's cat. After it continued to happen, and slowly turned into a deep, low groan or moan, I knew I had to do something. I moved my bed to the other side of the room completely, and did the only thing I knew how to do. At the time I was getting into witchcraft, green pagan witchcraft, not the dark kind, and I made an oil out of protective herbs and olive oil. I painted pentacles and crosses across my room, on the window, and door to my closet and entry to my room. For a while this helped. There was no activity in my room, but there was still activity. Out in the hall, leading to G's room and the stairs, I would hear walking or running from top of the stairs down to me and G's door before going back up the stairs. Eventually, I started having activity in my closet. It didn't matter what time of day it was, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening. That same rhythmic tapping would play out on my closet door in sets of 5, along with the doorknob rattling. It was loose, so it didn't take a lot to get it to rattle, but the way it rattled made it seem like someone was in my closet. At that point, I also started getting extreme nightmares. Always knowing I was dreaming, I would wake myself up. But I would always dream of paranormal or demonic things, never really seeing it, but only feeling it. I got fed up, so I finally got some selenite, which is a type of crystal, and placed it on the trim above the door to my closet. I also got Palo Santo and did a cleansing of my room and telling whatever was there that it was not allowed and had to leave. After I did this, I placed more selenite above the door to my room and cleansed myself. From that point on, to this day, nothing has ever happened in that room again. In the following months, with there being light activity around, my sister G got the bright idea to try and talk to whatever it was. She was new to witchcraft, but had a draw to the darker, more chaotic side of things. She did a ritual that was supposed to open a portal, candles placed in every direction, carnal direction. I sat with her on this, but never participated. She tried to communicate with whatever it was in our house, but she never got any responses. As I look back on it now, this was a dumb mistake on both our parts, me for not reminding her, and her for not closing the portal. Things in the house spiked, and activity started happening to my other sister, C, my brother, S, and my parents. The energy and vibe growing heavy and groggy throughout the next couple weeks. Things would go missing, usually things with value. Jewelry, watches, credit cards, wallets. They would all end up in the same spot in the center of the unfinished room of the basement. This became such a commonality that we started calling it our little gremlin. We found humor in it as to not really let it bother us. Eventually, when S started coming to me and my sister, talking about these dreams he had been having, where our dog would crawl under his bed and come back out as a dark black mass with holes for eyes and a mouth, is when we started having concern again. He had these dreams for weeks and would often go to my sister's room across the hall to sleep with her. As a 13-year-old boy, this is not normal behavior. When S and G went back to live with their mom for a while, it was just me and C in the house a lot of the time. Our parents worked a lot and often traveled. One night C, her boyfriend, and I were in the house alone. We were just messing around making dinner when we hear something clatter to the ground and shatter in the basement. C, being too scared, sent me and her boyfriend A down to check it out. We realized that the sound came from G's room that had been empty for weeks at this point. We opened the door, and the light was on even though nobody had been in there since G left. A and I walked around the room trying to find what fell. I rounded the bed to find glass from a candle splayed across the ground, but the wax and base were not on the ground with it. I looked up to the shelf probably 5 feet away from where the glass was, and there was the rest of the candle. A perfect circular break in the glass, and the wax untouched. It was as if something just lifted the glass off in perfection and threw it. Me and A looked at each other and kind of just shrugged, knowing the kinds of darker things G was into. We went back upstairs to my sister and told her what happened. None of us set foot in that room for a good long while after that. For a while, the activity subsided, and all that would happen would be movement of an object or a knock here or there. Nothing too crazy. I had moved out, though, and wasn't subject to the activity. That was until I moved back in while trying to pay for college, while my partner was in nursing school. That's when I started experiencing the activity again, along with my partner who had never been around it before. In my room, we would hear that same sound of someone walking to the door, waiting for a second and walking away. Tapping on the other side of the doors and walls. Random lights in the room in the dead of night. And then there was my stepdad, who was a class skeptic. Never once believed that our house was haunted until things started happening to him. We would all be sitting in the living room when from the study, maybe 20 feet from the living room, we would hear what sounded like a woman singing. This was the first instance of my stepdad challenging his beliefs of the paranormal. For about a year we would hear this singing, hear walking in the living room, the stairs, and kitchen. Around the perimeter of the living room there was tongue and groove treatment, and on that we had many sets of fine china handed down from previous family members. It was once that I walked into the living room while home alone to find my teacup and plate perfectly set in the entryway to the study. Unbroken, cup set atop the plate. Weird things like this continued until around last year, when the entity finally started showing itself. It started in the study, a tall black shadow with no defining features that you would catch out of the corner of your eye. Orbs flying across the rooms, up the walls. Things started to feel oppressive, dark, and demonic after we started seeing it. C started telling me about how she would have tapping on her bed. Again in sets of 5, just like what would happen to me. My mom would explain how she saw something walking to the bathroom or hear footsteps up to her door at night. This is when my sister and I started believing that whatever this entity was manipulating my mom. She would continually tell us, "No, it's not bad. Whatever is here isn't malevolent or evil." She was the only one who believed this. When my stepdad finally started taking the side that it was evil, was when he told us that he was seeing dark shadow people walking around the house, standing behind him in his webcam while he was working. He would leave the house terrified. For months, my mom tried to convince all of us that whatever this was, it wasn't evil. Day in and day out, as activity would arise, we would hear from my mom, "Oh, it's just trying to play with us," or something along the lines of that. The final thing that happened to me was when I was sitting in the living room. I saw an orb go from floor to ceiling. The main floor has 12-foot ceilings. It was bright and blue. Immediately after that, I heard singing in the study to my left, and the front door handle jiggle. I got up from the couch to see if someone was there, and there wasn't. So I left the house. This was around the beginning of this year, 2024, and I finally moved out again the end of May. Though I am not there to experience the activity, I still hear about it almost daily. I will get texts from my mom showing me pictures of something that she caught on camera, videos of orbs. Just about a month or two ago, she sent a video of something that looked like a hand dragging its way down her window curtain about 3 times, from top to bottom. She tried desperately to replicate the motion, but couldn't. She told me it wasn't bad, and she didn't feel scared by it. But every other person in the house felt the opposite. We were worried that it was oppressing my mom, manipulating her into thinking that it isn't bad. And finally, just yesterday, as of writing this story, I got sent another set of pictures, this time from C. Her and my mom were trying to take some pictures of the Halloween decorations they had set up. In one of the pictures, a very clear apparition is in the bathroom. It looked like it had white puffy sleeves, like that of a dress in the early 1900s. Its head and hands over the sink, like it was washing its face. Another picture looked like it showed the face of a man with a big beard, but zoomed in, you could see that there was another face, mouth agape, looking like a black hole, with 2 black holes for eyes. And the last picture was taken in the direction of the study, where it looked like something was crouched atop the big wardrobe, with the same holes for eyes and a mouth. When I saw the picture, it reminded me of a dream I had not too long ago about my mom's house. In it, there was this demon who would sit on top of cabinets and cupboards. I didn't see the demon until the end of the dream, where I saw it sitting on top of the floating cupboards in the kitchen, where it was crouched down, smiling this giant smile with black skin and yellow eyes. When I was showed the pictures, C told me that my mom saw what appeared to be a cat, not any of the faces that me, CG, or my stepdad saw. We believe that she is only seeing the good, because whatever it is, doesn't want her to think it's bad. Me and my sister talked about this and have grown more concerned for my mom because she is a very emotionally vulnerable person. I'm not sure what to do at this point because I no longer live there and can't actively try to get rid of some presence. I don't know what this thing is, but it is progressively becoming more and more present, showing itself and acting more malevolent than before. I just hope that my mom will stay safe and hopefully open her eyes.